In this video, I'm going to go over all of this grip gear and more, so let's get started. When you start working with lighting, the sheer array of gear that you can use can be overwhelming. And there are even catalogs upon catalogs upon catalogs of the grip gear that you can use in the studio and on location. So I want to give you an overview today of all of the grip gear that I use in the studio and on location so that it can help you know how to secure your gear and live out your best creative life. So in this video, I'm going to go over stands, grip arms, grip heads, booms, and all of the gear that you see before me on this table and much more. So let's talk about light stands. Almost all of us start off with aluminum light stands, or as the British would say, aluminium, which is probably my favorite word in the English dialect. They are great for general purpose activities. It could be on location or in your studio. They're lightweight, so they're easy to transport. They're also rather inexpensive. Their shortcomings, though, are that they can't bear a lot of weight, and that sometimes will lead to disaster. And so if you have heavier gear or you want to feel more secure with your gear, the next thing you want to look into are C-stands. So this is a 20-inch C-stand, and this is a 40-inch C-stand. These typically are steel stands that are very strong and can bear a lot of weight, and you can put a boom arm on them as well. So they are going to come apart and they are somewhat transportable. They're just going to have a much larger footprint when you are going on location than an aluminum stand, but they are going to be safer. This aluminum stand, by the way, will go up to, I believe, 12 or 14 feet. This one only goes up to around 10 feet. So there is quite a bit of difference, although most aluminum stands probably come in there in the 6 to 8 foot range. So that's something to maybe just put in the back of your head for later. Then over here, I have a crank stand, and this one is from Studio Titan. And they've provided a lot of stands that I use in my studio, and I think that they are great. The way that they work is you just need to use a few pounds of force, and you're able to move your light stand up and down, and it's going to allow you to take on or to have very heavy lighting equipment or very heavy booms and move them up and down with ease. I never thought that I would want a crank stand until I got one, and then I realized how great of a tool they are because they do keep you safe and they do allow you to move heavy equipment without having to worry about it. And on top of that, I know that a lot of us aren't capable of moving a 60-pound boom up and down, especially as we get older. And so having something like this is great. And I never have to worry about injuring myself on set, which yes, I have injured myself on set trying to put a heavy boom onto a C-stand and then pressing it over my head. So that's what I love about C-stands. Let's go ahead now and talk about grip heads and grip arms. All right, so this is a grip head and this is a 40-inch grip arm. They also have 20-inch versions of these as well. You can put your grip head onto your C-stand and you can put your grip arm into that grip head. So we'll just do it like that. So we'll zoom out here, and the purpose of having the grip arm on the C-stand is to boom something out there away from the center column. When we do that, we want to always make sure that we have the big leg over here underneath the weight. So underneath the weight of the arm. So when we do that, we're going to put this sandbag on here as well. And that's going to keep us safe while we're shooting. The other thing that we need to consider is that when you are looking at the grip handle from your perspective, the weight always needs to go to your right. And the reason for that is that what will happen is that right tight, the weight is over here, it's going to physically cause this to get more tension on it. And that's going to tighten the handle because from your perspective, it's right tight. And when the head is over here, the light is over here, it's going to rotate this way. So this particular grip head and grip arm is from Kupo as well as the C-stand. Kupo makes a hex head on their grip arms, which is different than the other brands, that will allow you to put a light on the end of it and secure it in place without it rotating and spinning around. If you have a different C-stand brand, then what you're going to do is you are going to reverse this. And you are going to end up with the grip head over on your right, and you're going to put something in it called a baby pin, but we'll get back to that in just a second. I want to show you though what would happen if I did this incorrectly. And I want to show you what would happen if the handle were facing you and the load was going to your left instead of your right. So let's put this over here, just like this. I shouldn't have taken it out a second ago because now I got to angle it back in there. Okay, perfect. So I am, however, going to rotate the base so that the big leg still stays under the grip arm. So remember though, you're supposed to, when you look at this handle, have the weight to your right. Right now, this is to your left, and I'm going to put this sandbag on here. And immediately what happens is it starts to loosen and eventually it's going to fall. And that's what you want to avoid. I just want to show you one more time how to do this safely and correctly. So you always want to have the boom out over the big leg. You want to put your sandbag on the big leg, although some people do say that you could put it on the second biggest leg in the back. It's a bit of a controversy. You can decide. I think it's safest on the front leg. And then when you have your weight to your right, you always want to have the weight to your right when you're looking at this handle, and that will remain safe. And you always want to have this arm over the big leg. That will keep it the most stable. If you do, however, go off a little bit and they aren't quite lined up, it'll still probably be safe. But if we take the sandbag off the base, it's not going to be safe. So that's why you want to make sure that you bag the stand, and you always make sure that your load or your weight goes to the right when you are looking at this handle. So this is a Kupo baby boom. This is probably the backbone standard boom that I would use in my studio and on location. Previously, I had the Avenger D600, which is very similar, only instead of having a flat or hex head like this one does, just like the grip arms, or yes, just like the grip arms, the Avenger D600 has a round head. I like this one better because I'm not worried about the beauty dish or whatever I put on the end over here rotating on me because of those flat heads. So it feels a lot more secure. Unlike the D600, this one does not have a grip head built in, and so you have to buy a grip head separately. And I've got it here on my Manfrotto rolling stand. So I would definitely suggest that you use this with a C-stand or a formidable rolling stand like this one, because this is a lot of weight back and forth. And it's really too much to go onto an aluminum stand. When I started off, I was using the D600 with aluminum stands, and I bent several of them, and they're permanently bent, and I can't extend them up all the way because of it. So I'm sure it wasn't good for the stands, and I'm sure it wasn't safe either. So I wouldn't do that at all. I would definitely get at least a C-stand if you're going to boom anything out. There are less expensive booms than this that are aluminum and break down even smaller, but I don't think that they're as safe as this one. And so I would definitely suggest that this one be your entry-level boom if you're going to boom something more than you can boom out there with the grip arm and grip head system. So the next thing I want to talk about is balancing. If I loosen this up, and remember we're still using a grip head, so it's still, the weight is to your right when we're using it. If I loosen this up and I let go, it's going to fall. And that's because it's not balanced. What I think you should do is you should make it so that the counterweight goes further to the side, and you'll find a point where it's generally equal. And this will make it very safe, because if for some reason, let's see, it's right about there. If for some reason this were to come loose, your light wouldn't go flying to the ground too quickly and you could save it. But the main reason why is that once you tighten this up, your load is secure. And in addition to that, all of your weight is sort of going straight down on the light stand. It's not making it go this way or that way like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And so it's going to distribute into the legs and then onto the floor, and things are going to be very safe. So that's why I would suggest balancing it. The next boom that I'm going to show you is so big and formidable, it doesn't have a thing where you can loosen it like this. So I just have to trust that I've got it balanced enough and it will work. But just know that if you can balance it like this, I would suggest doing it because it will keep your equipment and your subject safe. So this is the Kupo Big Boom, and it's very similar to the Manfrotto Mega Boom, and I just got it about a month or so ago, and I absolutely love it. The thing that sets this unit apart is that it has these cranks on it, which allow you to adjust a very large light on the other end and keep it safe. This is, or at least to keep it in position and keep it safe. This is my Elinchrom 190 centimeter indirect octabox, and of course it is gigantic. And because of that, it was really hard for me to keep it stable on any other boom, because what would happen is gravity would take over and it would end up in this position. But I don't necessarily want it in this position. I might want to rotate it so that it's pointed a little bit in one way or the other so that I get a catch light. Or maybe I want to turn it this way. Maybe I want to use it in the horizontal position. What if I wanted to rotate, or not rotate, but pan the head a little bit? I could do that with this crank over here. And so that is really good too. And what if I wanted more length? Well, I could use this crank over here to make it longer. I better step on my stand over here. Or I could use it to make it shorter. And there is a brake on it as well. So that is really great. And then there is this crank right here that will change the pitch of the entire stand. And I've got it on one of my Studio Titan crank stands. So all I have to do is release the brake over here, and then I can crank it up and down. And for someone who once hurt themselves pressing a large boom over their head, this is pure luxury, and I absolutely love it. And the other thing too is, while this may be expensive, you'll be able to use it for years to come. I know that I will probably use this boom for the rest of my career, and I'm going to just love having it. So now that we've gone over stands, grip heads, grip arms, and booms, let's talk about all the things that you can put on top of those stands or at the end of those grip arms or those booms. I'm going to talk about all the hardware that I have out here in front of me. Let's start off though talking about a grip head. So this is a Kupo 2.5 or 2.25 inch grip head. It has a very large handle, which is a little different than the ones from the other brands. So this is a 20-inch grip arm from Matthews, and it has a much smaller handle. So you might prefer the Kupo ones over the Matthews ones. It's just a point of personal preference. Now, what I can do with this is I can put a double-ended stud in here. This double-ended stud is very cheap, very generic. We're just going to stick it inside of the grip head. And then this is going to allow me to put this on top of a stand. And then that will allow me to put this double-ended stud wherever I need it. And whatever is on the other end of it could be wherever I need it. This could be a tripod head. It could be a light, or it could be this clip over here. And this clip is actually really cool. This clip just goes on like this, and it can be used to hold foam boards. So I will use these as my fill source or as flags. So if they're white, they'll be a bounce card. If they're black, they'll be a flag. Very simple, very effective way to work. I also have a homemade cucaloris that I will hold with this. And a cucaloris is just a board with holes in it that can be used to cast shadow patterns onto a background or to darken down parts of your frame without fully blocking it. So they come in really handy as well. Let's talk about the next thing that I have here on the table. And this is a stud that will allow you to attach it to a drop ceiling. And this can be very helpful in an office situation if you need to put a hair light above your subject or something like that. They're very inexpensive and simple tools that can come in really handy. This is a Kupo offset arm, and this is probably the one thing that I think I've caused the most people to buy over the course of my career. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to stick this on the top of a light stand, and then you can place anything over here. Usually for me though, it's a beauty dish, and that way I can get the light directly over my camera and point it down at the person, and I can shoot under it. So this is a wonderful accessory, and it is basically a short boom arm, and it comes in really handy that way. This right here is a baby pin. So a baby pin is what's more commonly used in a grip head, and I have another one sitting over here in order to hold a light. So I know earlier I had the double-ended stud, but you're probably, according to most know-it-all, supposed to use the baby pin instead, and this is said to be preferable. However, I don't know that you would necessarily use it in this configuration in the grip head. You're probably more likely to put the grip head into the grip arm. And remember, just like earlier, we've got to make sure that our load goes to the right. So if you're looking at the handle, that means, and we're going to put the light over here, that means that I've got to slide this into the grip head in this orientation. Sorry for all the squeaking. That way, if we were to put this on a stand, and we were to put the baby pin in over here, I've tightened this down with my King Kong grip, and we were to put a light on this, and imagine this is sitting on the stand over here. So I'll just sit it on the table. We'll pretend that's in a stand. If I put the light over here, what's going to happen is that my weight is going to go down, and that's going to force this handle to go to the right. So remember, always put the weight to the right. That's maybe the key thing for this video today that hopefully you will have learned. This is a variable friction arm, and it works out really well in what is called a super clamp. So this is a super clamp. So a super clamp is just used to allow you to tighten down this thing onto a pipe or even the vertical part of a light stand. And then what you end up with is this 5/8 hole over here that you can stick something into, like a double-ended stud, or maybe you can sit this on top of a light stand, and now it can become the support for a crossbar for a backdrop. And that's another really helpful way to use it as well. There really are 1,000 uses. Let's say that you wanted to use this to mount a light to the railing of a deck. Well, what I would do is I would take this flat piece here and I would just stick it in like that. It slides right in, and now I have a flat surface that I can use. And if I just pull my table back here a little bit, just so you know, this is the top to an antique piece of furniture that I found in an alley, which I ripped off about 3 years ago. I pried it off with a crowbar, so that's why it's movable. So now I've just mounted this to the side over here, and now that gives me a position to put something. Works out really well. This, however, is a variable friction arm, and the variable friction arm can go right into the super clamp, and I'll put it into this one right now. I've just got to press that pin there, or press that release to let me put the pin in. Okay, great. Now I have the super clamp secured. And what I can do now is I have the variable friction arm secured into the super clamp. What I can do now is I can tighten this in any position, put it in any position that I want, and then tighten it. And what that's going to allow me to do now is I could put a light over here, or there's a platform that I could put on here to put a camera, or I could put the clip on here. And now instead of having our foam board attached to a light stand, maybe we want it on this variable friction arm, and then we can put it out, right out there in front of our subject, and we can use it as a really nice bounce card. The options are, endless. We could instead, maybe instead of the clip, we want to put the grip head in there. And now we could use the grip head to hold a flag or something like that. And this is actually a good opportunity for me to talk about the Road Rags kit that I have from Matthews. And I've used it for the last 20 years in order to block light or bounce light into going into certain parts of my frame. And it's come in really handy. This unit is rather expensive, but there is a cheaper version from Impact and Glow. And so I'll include links to that in the description so that you can check that out. This is a great way to get flags on location. I'm going to release this from the table so it's no longer in front of my face. And you can just see how well built this is and how handy it could come in. The other thing that I have to show you is this A-clamp here. And A-clamps are great usually for keeping backdrops from spinning. And they're just really good pieces of gear that you can use at any time. You could also use these to style clothing. And if you needed to like tighten someone's pants or their jacket, you could go behind them and clip this on there and hold those secure as well. And then I have gaffer tape on the table. Oh, and by the way, there are larger versions of this and smaller versions of this. And I have smaller versions usually at the ready for that styling use. And I have bigger versions sometimes for backdrops. So having 3 sizes of these A-clamps really comes in handy. This is just a roll of gaffer tape. This is the Swiss Army knife, if you will, that most photographers are going to have in your studio. And you can use this from everything from securing gels to securing backdrops to the floor. And that's really the thing about all of this grip gear. There are no specific uses for it. And so I would really encourage you to, if you have it, try it out, use it in different scenarios. Just think about this as a lot of tools that you could use in order to solve a problem, because you never know which one of these things could be a solution to a problem one day, and just having an assortment of it on set is a good way to go. I acquired all of this stuff by having different problems that I needed to solve over time and bought it a little piece at a time. But certainly having a grip arm and a grip head and a baby pin is definitely a good way that you can go to get started. I definitely would say having this offset arm is indispensable, and then having the A clamps and the gaffer tape is really a wonderful way to go. Whereas, this variable friction arm is great, but it's more of a luxury item that you might not need right away. Well, I think that about wraps it up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. Also, please like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell so you won't miss our next video. Thank you so much for your time. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.